Hello, my name is Luke and I'm here to show you the good stuff that's going to help you make better music faster. And today I'm going to show you what I do to ad-lib like the pop star that I know I am and that I know you are. So let's dive right in. Ad-libs are cool. I love them. They add a lot of interest to a vocal top line and can really add that source right when you hear it. And so I'm going to break this down into 4 subsections. So we're going to look at the ad-lib type, and then we're going to look at the placement, note choice, and then the processing. So my 4 areas. And so the first thing that I want to do is establish the ad-lib type. In my mind, there are 2 ad-libs that you can do over a top line. You have the supporting ad-lib and you have the featured ad-lib. Supporting ad-lib are ad-libs that are going to support the lead vocal. So they act almost more like a harmony. And you could just call it a harmony or a BV, but for me, they're a little more stylized as opposed to a standard full-blown BV or harmony, which is why they fall under this category here. And then the next is a featured ad-lib, which does something off of the lead vocal. So the top line does its thing, and the ad-lib, the featured ad-lib, does something independently, right? It's more of a feature. So I'm going to show you some examples here. In my verse here, I have some supporting ad-libs, and I'm going to play them for you here in context.
I tried to give myself over, but your lies kept me anything but sober.
So this entire section is filled with supporting ad-libs. I'm just going to solo the vocal chain and the BV so you can hear them more clearly without the instruments.
I tried to give myself over, but your lies kept me anything but sober.
Cool. So you can hear that these ad-libs here, these 3, they are more like a harmony. But again, the way I've processed them, they feel more like an ad-lib. I like to refer to them as ad-libs because then it doesn't confine me to just harmonizing and then that's that. And also I'm only doing one of them. If I was properly layering this up as a BV, I might throw in doubles and all sorts, right? But where I'm in a bid to make songs quicker and faster, I tend not to do that as much these days. I tend to just rely on the supporting ad-libs. So here is the ad-lib on its own. Let me just... Okay, that's what they're doing. And then there is a slightly different ad-lib here with less effects on it.
Anything but sober.
Like that. And that's supporting the lead. And then you have the featured ad-libs, which I have a little bit more of later on in the song. So the first obvious one is in my chorus here, and you'll hear it in the background. I'll play it to you in context. Did you hear that? Oh, that bit? I'll just solo the vocals here. Like that. That's more of a feature. I also have another featured ad-lib in my second verse here, and I'll just play you that.
The song on repeat, hoping it'll give me peace, but nothing seems to work. I just want to get it out, get it.
Okay, so that's a featured ad-lib because it's independent of the lead vocal. It's doing something completely separate. Again, in context of the song.
It'll give me peace, but nothing seems to work.
So it's kind of filling that space, right? And so they're your 2 ad-lib types, supporting or feature. Now, the placement of your ad-libs, a couple of ways to think about this. The placement is where you place it in your register. So are you going to sing in the same pitch as your lead vocal? Are you going to sing higher or lower? This is crucial to think about because what you don't want the ad-lib to do is actually get in the way of the lead vocal. So if it's a supporting ad-lib, you'll find that you're probably singing an entirely different note because you want to harmonize in some way, or you're using it to create a double effect like I've got over here, right? But the placement is really, really crucial, especially when you start getting into your featured ad-libs. So back over here, if I'm singing my featured ad-lib in the same register as my lead, there is more opportunity for them to get tangled up with one another. So again, everything has to have intention when you're making any song that you do and everything that you do. And it's exactly the same process with doing ad-libs. What is it serving? And so I wanted this little gap here. I wanted to add a little bit of source, but I didn't want to get in the way of my lead, because you can see when my lead vocal comes back in here, my ad-lib is still going over. So I didn't want it to get in the way. So what do? I just sang the octave up. Again, I'll just show you that.
Give me peace, but nothing seems to work.
So you can see that it just doesn't get in the way at all. Later on in the final chorus, I do have another featured ad-lib, but it's actually in the low register, and I'll show you this one here. There. So they're very stylistic again as well, but you can see that I'm sitting more in the range of the main vocal. To be fair, the main vocal is actually a sample of a female, so it sings higher anyway than what I do. So it made sense, but you can see that I'm only singing really in the gaps. There's a little bit of overlap here. The sampled vocal is there. So you can see there's a tiny bit of overlap between these two like that. But that's okay. You know, where she's singing higher, that's what we're rolling with. And again, I'm being really particular about singing it in the gap here. So again, that would be a featured ad-lib. There's a bit more going on there. So the next thing is note choice. And again, we kind of covered that with placement, but you can either sing the same thing as the top line, or you can kind of go off in your own direction. A great thing that I really enjoy doing with ad-libs is to start by singing the lead line and then gallivant off into a completely separate melody. I think that can be really fun. I don't necessarily do direct harmony, so I don't just follow the shape of the top line. Sometimes I try and think about leaping, right? And what I mean by leaping is, rather than following in steps what the lead vocal might be doing, I try and think about how can I throw my voice around to create some interest, right? How can I, take this pretty standard phrase in this song? You know, a lot of my phrases are pretty monotone because it's more of a like a hip hop style vocal, I suppose. You know, how can I create more intrigue with the ad-libs that I do? If you have a really hectic lead vocal that is all over the shop melodically, you might not want to do the same thing in your ad-libs. It might start becoming too much. So maybe a slightly more linear ad-lib would suit. So to me, it's all about contrast. Like, how does everything play off one another? How does the ad-lib play off the lead vocal? And then finally, it comes to processing. So ad-libs to me, again, are very stylized, certainly in pop. Now, they don't always have to be this way, but there's a few things that I like to think about. So I tend to process them in the same way that I process a lead vocal. I'm not going to go into that today, but I will just do my usual pitching, EQ, compression to get the sound good, right, as a good bass. And then I go for my slightly more sort of creative effects here. So the first thing that I add, if I actually just take away all the effects here quickly, this is how the ad-lib sounds on its own. I try. So that is how I would process a lead vocal. That's got all those bits and pieces on it. The first thing is I add this vintage verb here by Valhalla because I want to put the vocal back in the mix. I try. There we go. And again, what I really love doing is completely taking away all the frequencies in the ad-lib. So you can see I'm doing an extreme low cut and high cut up to 660 hertz and then down to 3K. Like that, and then I do knock out a little bit at 750 there, minus 1.5 decibels. And that sounds like this. So that gets rid of all those additional frequencies and makes it sound like a telephone. And that's a really important thing to think about. You know, if you're doing a stylized ad-lib, by taking away frequencies, you can really find the frequency placement. You know, I could change my low cut here and make the ad-lib generally lower, right? And now suddenly it has a different effect, a different sound. So straight off the bat, you can play around with where the low cut and high cut starts and ends and see what works in the context of your song. I then added this compressor here, and this is just doing some basic compression to control the vocal with the reverb. And the main thing it's doing, I've got a fast attack and a sort of medium release, and that is attacking it's quite sort of an impacty sound, right? So on the I tried, it's hitting quite hard. So what I did was I used the fast attack to basically take away that transient and smoothen it out, and then sort of a medium release there. So you can see it really hits at the beginning. keeps it nice and controlled. And then the final thing I did was finish with the chorus Juno. And this is just a chorus effect, obviously, and I've got the mix 100% of the way because I want just that wide chorus effect. And that really takes the vocal away from the center and puts it out to the sides. So I know from a stereo field point of view, it's not going to get in the way of my lead vocal, right? And so that is my first way of processing my ad-libs. And to be fair, I run with that for a lot of the ad-libs in this song. I'll show you the other two ad-libs and the processing on them. So if I look at this one here, this is more of a double and it's more of a full sounding ad-lib.
Get me anything but sober.
That one, I wanted it to be impactful. So that's why I didn't take away all the frequencies. And instead, I just added a case of CLA vocal. And the key thing here is making it super wide. That was it. I just made it super wide. I'll just solo it for you.
Give me anything but sober.
If you're wearing headphones or you've got good speakers, you'll hear it's pan left and right. And that's because, again, my lead vocal sits in the center and then this comes in pan left and right. And so it creates a certain effect. And then the final ad-lib type that I do in this is this sort of kind of chorus impact type thing. So I've got my main BV, which sits here. That's actually dry, and that's like a standard BV, to be fair. The ad-lib in question is this one here. And again, this one has my usual vocal processing on it, but I'm just being a bit more dramatic with the reverb instead. I've increased the mix a little bit more, made it slightly longer. And then with the EQ, rather than taking away both sides of the frequency spectrum, I'm just taking away the bottom because I still want a lot of the high-end energy. We're going into the chorus. I want that high-end energy to be there to take us in. And then I finish with a case of neutron here. And here we've got another case of ad-lib, equalizer. And again, I'm doing a more extreme cut here. I'm docking at 270 and taking away, doing a low cut at about 330 again. I just do it more of a habit. I probably didn't need to, but I just did it anyway. And then adding an exciter here, more in the top end, nothing in the bottom end here. And that is just to give a bit of extra harmonic information to the top there. And obviously that then trails off into the distance and it sounds really nice leading into that chorus. So there we go. That's how you can ad-lib like the pop star that you are. If you found this video helpful, let me know in the comments below. If you like videos like this, subscribe and I'll see you in the next one.